Logan Paul's no longer lurking. Dude, lurking Logan Paul actually kind of has a ring to it. I freaking love it. I love that very much. Lurking Logan Paul, man. That's got to be a t-shirt. That's really freaking good.
All right, welcome to episode 8 of Left Turns, Right Hooks. I'm your host, Dan Lindsay, and thank you so much for tuning to today's third chapter of our booking of John Cena's retirement tour. And Tyler, thanks for joining me. It's hard to think we're already to the portion of the booking that we'll have to start down the road of saying really goodbye to the man we can't see. What were your thoughts on getting into this? And, admittedly, we were going to do 3 episodes of this. We decided to split our third episode into 2, kind of like the Harry Potter thing or the final book, the final book needs 2 chapters or 2 movies. So we're going to do the final booking in two videos here. So how was it preparing for this last stretch of booking Cena's retirement tour?
Yeah, so this has been a ton of fun. I have been waiting for this for a while. I am stoked. I am in love with the stories that you and I are both telling here. Obviously, it's all completely wrong, but that's not the exercise, right? The exercise is fantasy booking. It's to kind of show our creativity and our imagination and kind of displaying that. So, yeah, man, I'm really excited, and I just can't wait to tell you and tell the world the story that I have, and I'm equally excited to hear the story that you are going to tell me, and you have hyped it up quite a bit, and I know you're going to deliver, my friend. You always do, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for yours too. I think that's almost been almost more fun. It's like, telling what we would do, which again, like you mentioned, it's wrong. It's very wrong at this point. We've obviously seen it 3 separate times. I think by the time we got to the chamber, we probably had him booked like 10 appearances. But I mean, again, like you said, that wasn't the exercise we set out to do here. So I'm hoping that at least pieces of our stories come true at some point during this year, whatever portion it is. At least, it's like, oh, we kind of said that. We just thought it was going to happen sooner.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we're splitting the final few months into 2 parts. We're actually going to take this episode from post SummerSlam into Crown Jewel. Then we're going to cut off at Crown Jewel, and then we'll book up the last basically 6 weeks of John Cena's farewell tour, 6-8 weeks of the farewell tour, and we'll talk a little more about that and about kind of how we foresee how we get another one more PLE in December using Saturday night's main event. We'll talk about that in that episode. But just so you know, we both have a lot going on in these in these last 2 months. We were like, we want to fit more stuff into our booking. So hope everybody enjoys what we have going on. So Tyler, I'll just kick it off right to you right away. Walk us through post SummerSlam through Crown Jewel for booking John Cena.
All right. Well, I know I said this at the top, but I'm very excited to be able to tell everybody this story. And I'm just going to be honest with you, right? This has been some of the most fun I've had doing anything is writing these stories. It's something I truly love to do. And so hopefully you guys enjoy it just as much as I do. I hope I am a good enough storyteller that you guys get the feeling and the emotion. Because obviously I can say something, right? I can think it in my head. I can know what's going on. And if I don't convey it properly to all of you, it doesn't matter, right? So we will see what happens. But with that, I'm going to get myself situated here because this is a doozy. Let's get into it. So like Dan said, we are starting the Monday Night Raw after SummerSlam. Okay, so a few logistical things on my end before we get going. Quick refresher. Previously in my booking, John Cena had just lost his Intercontinental title to the returning Ilya Dragunov at SummerSlam. After the match, Cena said he would be going away for a little while, but that when he came back, he would be going after number 17. Also, that same night at SummerSlam, Finn Balor cashed in his Money in the Bank contract and pinned Logan Paul to take Gunther's World Heavyweight Championship. The one of the main events was obviously Gunther versus Logan Paul. Finn Balor pinned Logan Paul and took Gunther's World Heavyweight Championship. And if you remember, Gunther's already going through quite a bit of a crisis. And finally, last little bit of logistical thing for you before we get into the actual booking. In the real world, WWE has announced a couple of PLEs during this part of my booking and during part four's booking. I will not be using them. Okay, I can't speak for Dan. Maybe Dan will use some of them depending on what he wants to do. That is totally fine. I'm letting you all know I will not be using those PLEs because these stories that I am about to tell have been written long before WWE announced these PLEs. And so they are not necessarily predicated on what is happening in real life, these stories, right? So, therefore, in my timeline, in this booking, the next PLE that we'll be talking about will not be Clash in Paris on August 31st, like it is in real life, but rather it will be on September the 6th, and that PLE will be Clash of Champions live from the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. Okay. This PLE will function kind of like Night of Champions, where every single championship in the WWE will be defended at some point during the show. Therefore, due to the amount of championships that WWE has and the shenanigans, of course, that WWE has,
Never.
inevitably this tons. This will be a 2-night event. So it will be the 6th and the 7th of September, and you might as well have the Raw after and the SmackDown prior in Tokyo as well. Okay, so Cena is going to be away for a bit, as I kind of mentioned at the top, and as I mentioned at the end of last booking. But just in case, he's going to be away for a bit. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to give you a brief summation of the world title scene before Cena comes back, okay? Because obviously Cena said he's going to come back for the world title, so I have to kind of keep you up to date as to what's going on with the world title. So the story going into this next PLE, which is of course Clash of Champions, is Gunther getting his rematch against Finn Balor. And the story goes short like this: Gunther believes firmly in his heart that it is no match against Finn Balor, meaning Finn Balor has no chance against Gunther in a one-on-one fight. And of course, given his career, he has a lot of reason to believe that. But weirdly, Finn Balor has been acting very nonchalant throughout all of this booking. He seems very overconfident, and he's actually getting the better of Gunther verbally and even physically in some instances throughout this buildup. But ultimately, every single week, Gunther, with the help of Ludwig Kaiser, attack Finn Balor at some point. They, are on top of him, and every single week the punishment gets worse and worse and worse and worse. But every single time, Gunther looks up at the Titantron and sees Finn Balor laughing or smiling or begging him to come back and continue the punishment. And Gunther gets more and more and more creeped out by this, or frightened by this, or maybe just confused, whatever necessarily the emotions are. And again, Gunther is already going through a hard time. So during this, you start seeing Ludwig Kaiser actually ushering Gunther and giving him directions. Gunther convincing him to attack or not to attack. Gunther taking orders from Kaiser, something that the ring general that we all know would never do, but he's starting to kind of lose it. He starts calling out Balor to fight him right then and there, which is something that that Gunther never does in real life, right? So he's just starting to slowly go more and more crazy. Okay, so that's kind of the story, right, as we head into the world title match that will be the main event ultimately of night one of the of Clash of Champions. Okay, so let's skip ahead to when Cena does eventually come back. This is going to be on August 25th. Okay, so 3 weeks after the beginning of this. So you've had 3 weeks of the Gunther and Balor story, and now we get to kind of later on in the show. As the show is closing on that Raw on August 25th, Triple H is shown backstage, and he says that John Cena will be appearing for the first time since SummerSlam next week live on Monday Night Raw. And it will be a Raw that no one will ever forget. Because, John, I know something you don't know. So I will skip ahead of the Finn Balor and Gunther stuff since you guys kind of already got a bit of a feeler of what's going to be going on there. But at the conclusion of the next Raw, so obviously the week after the 25th, I think that would be the 30th, the first or something like that, whatever it is, first or second, something like that. John Cena's music hits and he returns for the first time since SummerSlam. He says, "Well, Triple H, you certainly got my attention. So instead of sitting on my couch, I got myself up and flew to Monday Night Raw. So, Hunter, what's the skinny?" And Triple H then comes out, gives John Cena a hug before taking the mic. And Triple H says, "Before we get started, I have to say thank you for everything you did with the John Cena Invitational. It was truly an inspiration for all of us to see you give that much of yourself one more time. So thank you. But let's get on to business. John, why do you think you're here?" It's not a rhetorical question, by the way. I actually want you to answer me. Go ahead and tell me why you think I brought you here. Cena answers, "Well, I think there's one reason and one reason only. Number 17. You said you know something I don't know, so what you know that I know that you know, that I know that you know, is that Clash of Champions, it's going to be a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship." And the crowd goes bananas at this prospect. And Triple H says, "John, no one wants you to win number 17 more than me. And the guy who you're tied with is kind of important to me, just in case you weren't aware." But, anyways, John, I have a lot of pull around here. I have the ability to add anyone to any match at any time. And I also have the ability to make any match at any time. But the title matches at Clash of Champion are set in stone. So, no, you will not be wrestling for the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash of Champions. In fact, you won't be fighting for any championship at Clash of Champions. But you will be competing at Clash of Champions because, John, let's get super corny here for a second. Even without a title, you are the very definition of a champion. And you have earned the right to represent this company one more time at Clash of Champions. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Now, before I get into what you don't know, let me tell you something that you do know, or maybe you don't know, but I think you probably do, John. In your entire storied career, you have never once wrestled in Japan. You've been here for 23 years, John, and in all of that time, you have never had a wrestling match in Japan. We were in Tokyo in 2002, right before you got called. And we were back here in 2005, just a mere 3 months before you got sent to Raw. And you weren't here. So, on September 7th, night two of Clash of Champions, you will get a chance. And it's funny. For years, the WWE has existed in this bubble, this extended universe of our own that we have curated and created into this juggernaut that you see before you today. And then suddenly people get wind that John Cena's coming to Japan, and suddenly everyone, people from all over the world, just so happen to find your phone number. This is the John Cena retirement tour, and so for John's first and only match in Japan, we couldn't just have any normal match. So, what I know that you don't know is at Clash of Champions, you, John Cena, will be facing this man. And Triple H points to the Titantron, and it cuts to a backstage area, but not the backstage area of Raw. The frame of the camera then moves over to see a hooded figure with his back turned to the camera. The figure then slowly turns around to the side and reveals the side of his hood, and it says, "Go Ace," right there for the world to see. And the fans who know will start to go nuts. The man removes his hood and faces the camera to reveal Hiroshi Tanahashi, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling and the greatest Japanese wrestler in history. The man who some have called the John Cena of the East will, for one time only, wrestle under the WWE banner against John Cena in the Tokyo Dome. Cena's face is obviously full of shock and a tinge of fear, but as Tanahashi says, "John Cena, I will see you at Clash of Champions, and we will see who the best in the world really is." Cena's face then turns to determination as he stares down the barrel of the once in a century talent. Now, I do feel I have to explain myself a bit. How would this be possible? Well, Nakamura did face the Great Muta a couple years ago in Japan. Omos and Nakamura have both wrestled in Japan not too long ago for Pro Wrestling Noah. So the match isn't too far from happening in that regard. It's not too much of a stretch there, but what is a bit of a stretch is that obviously Tanahashi's wrestling for New Japan, who has a partnership with AEW. But here's the thing: Hiroshi Tanahashi isn't just a wrestler in New Japan, he is the president of New Japan. He literally makes the decisions. And he said himself back in October that in early 2026, he will be retiring from the ring for good. And what better opportunity to have the greatest wrestler of the West and the greatest wrestler of the East in a match together? So hopefully Tanahashi would be super open to this idea, given that it's in Japan, first of all. So it's in front of his home people. He doesn't have to travel to America to do it. It's against John Cena, who is quite literally the greatest wrestler to ever live, in most people's opinion at this point. And both guys are going to be on a retirement tour. So there's no titles on the line. There's no egos on the line. It's just fanfare. That's all it's for. Nothing more. No ulterior motives, no gimmicks. John Cena versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. Obviously, in real life, this won't happen because there's not a pay per view in Japan happening. Now, they are in talks to have a pay per view in Japan in 2026, but by then, it'd be too late. But regardless, for this booking, it will happen. All right, so the main event of night one is going to be Gunther versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther enters the arena first to a thunderous amount of boos. He stands in the ring and demands Balor come to the ring and face him like a man, but Balor does not come out immediately. He is going to make Gunther wait. The mind games that Finn Balor has been playing over the last few weeks is really starting to make Gunther lose his mind. He's losing it more and more the longer he waits, and then suddenly the lights go out. And for the first time in nearly 3 years, the demon has entered the building. The Japanese crowd cheers with love and vitriol as one of the most beloved characters in WWE history graces them with its presence. Gunther now realizes, as do the rest of us, why Finn Balor had been so calm and confident throughout the last few weeks. He realizes why Balor was laughing during those attacks and why it felt like the more punishment he received, the stronger he seemed to get, because slowly Gunther was unlocking the demon of his mind once again. No one, not even Gunther, could have prepared for this. And the match reflects that as Gunther struggles throughout the entire match to gain any momentum. He struggles to stack his offense like he usually does. And Balor actually either counters or just simply absorbs all of the high impact offense, that rapid fire high impact offense we see Gunther have. His chops are not effective in the match until closer to the end. Balor just eats them, doesn't even flinch. Balor bounces up after Gunther hits him with a clothesline, refusing to stay down, and Balor has a counter for the power bomb consistently throughout the match. Eventually, after a 22-minute bout, Gunther puts Balor in a sleeper. Balor puts his foot up on the turnbuckle, climbs, and flips over until Gunther's on his back. He escapes, hits him with a double stomp, picks up Gunther into a 1916, which was his finisher in Japan, by the way, so that ought to get a nice pop. Climbs to the top rope, hits a coup de grace. 1, 2, 3. The demon has beaten the Ring General clean as a whistle. And after the match, he gets a fantastic reception from the crowd that used to watch him put body paint on for big matches in Japan before the demon was ever created. Gunther looks completely kicked off, absolutely furious that Finn Balor has not only defeated him in the match, but has outclassed him mentally, psychologically, and strategically. And on night two, the main event is, of course, John Cena versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. I honestly don't feel qualified to book this match in terms of its sequence of events, so I will simply say this. Given the age of both men, I would say 18 minutes is more than enough. If you want to go 20 minutes, 22, so be it, but 18 minutes should be more than enough. I could even see it going 15, quite frankly. But regardless, one thing I don't want is I don't want this to be a finish spamming match like we've seen with John Cena and The Rock, right? Where it's just finisher after finisher after finisher. I don't want that. But I would like to see each man kick out of the other's finisher one time. Cena obviously kicking out of the frog splash. I believe in Japanese it's called the high fly and flow. Maybe somebody in the comment section can correct me on that. I don't know for sure. I don't speak Japanese. And then, of course, Tanahashi kicking out of the triple AA. Obviously, AA, he rolls through, picks him up again. AA rolls through, picks him up again. AA. Tanahashi can kick out of that once, please. Also, I would like for Tanahashi to refuse to tap out to the SDF. Have him get locked in at 3 separate times, and each time have a different counter. But the last time, he really gets locked into it, and he just barely gets to the ropes. Those are the things that I would like to see in the match. Everything else, again, don't feel qualified. In the end, John Cena defeats the hometown hero with a super AA and then gives Tanahashi the ring to celebrate and to get a beautiful ovation in front of his home country. So, that brings us to the Raw after Clash of Champions on September the 8th. And before I continue, I do want to let you know that the next PLE in my world will take place on October the 4th in Tampa, Florida. And it will be WWE Unforgiven. And it's the first time they will have held that premium live event since 2008. And again, it's in Tampa, which is John Cena's second home. Obviously, he's billed for Massachusetts, but he's lived in Tampa for a lot of his life. Okay, so on to Raw. Finn Balor comes out to celebrate his victory when he is interrupted by Gunther. Gunther claims that Finn Balor cheated and that it was not fair for him to come out as the demon without giving anyone any sort of notice. And Finn says that Gunther told the world over and over and over again that there was no way Finn could beat Gunther in a fair fight. No way. And that Gunther was prepared for everything. So if you weren't prepared for the demon Gunther, that's on you. And as the two of them are going back and forth, Rollins hits the ring and says he thinks it's about time he and Finn renew their rivalry. And he doesn't mind having to go through this guy, pointing to Gunther, to do it. After a little bit of back and forth between Rollins and Gunther, John Cena's music hits and he marches down to the ring with a purpose. He goes right past Gunther, ignoring him completely, right past Rollins, ignoring him completely, and gets right in the face of the World Heavyweight Champion. Cena says, "Here's the deal. I don't have time to wait around. It's now or never, Finn. Put up or shut up time. What do you say? You, me, Unforgiven for that." Points to the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther interrupts again. "Excuse me. We were all in the middle of a conversation here. You can't just come out and shut up, Gunther. The grown-ups are talking here." Balor interrupts. "I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into, John." And Cena responds, What do you think? Some fool in body paint and a stupid headdress scares me? Bring your demon. I'll whoop you, your demon, Jesus' stunt double from The Chosen, and Bowser's Austrian cousin all at the same damn time. And this sends Gunther into a blind rage. Obviously, he doesn't like being called Bowser's Austrian cousin. So he attacks Cena and Balor from behind, and Rollins comes in to neutralize Gunther and sends Gunther flying out of the ring, leaving Rollins standing tall at the end of the segment. Moving on to the next week, September 15th edition of Raw, a match is made. Gunther versus John Cena versus Seth freaking Rollins to determine the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. But everything is not as it seems. Gunther enters the ring, followed by Rollins. And when Cena is supposed to come out and his music hits, Cena never comes out. And the camera cuts to him being loaded into an ambulance in the back, covered in his own blood. As Rollins is watching this on the Titantron, Ludwig Kaiser hits Seth Rollins in the back with a pipe. It's clear that Kaiser is the one who attacked John Cena. Gunther and Kaiser absolutely destroy Seth Rollins before the bell and before the match even begins. Eventually, Gunther powerbombs Rollins through the announce table. They throw him back into the ring, and the referee tries to cancel the match altogether, but Seth refuses to quit. And the bell rings, and Gunther immediately hits a T-Rex drop kick into the corner, powerbomb, and splash. 1, 2, 3, and in about 30 seconds, Gunther has won the match and become the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship at Unforgiven. And I tell you, Gunther in real life would never do that. He must be desperate. Later on in the week, Triple H puts out a short video on WWE social media pages and YouTube channel saying that he hates what he saw on Monday and he doesn't think Cena or Rollins got a fair shake. And so another match will be made in 2 weeks' time. Assuming they are both cleared to compete by then, John Cena and Seth Rollins will go one-on-one to be added to the World Heavyweight Championship match at Unforgiven, therefore making it a triple threat match. The next week on September 22nd, Gunther calls out Triple H for having the gall to make the match at Unforgiven a triple threat match, and he demands that he comes out and explains himself. Adding insult to injury, Triple H does not come out, and so Gunther says, I'm going to sit in this chair in the middle of the ring until Triple H comes out, essentially acting like a baby. The show goes to commercial as Gunther sits in the middle of the ring with his arms folded. And then it comes back from commercial, and Gunther is still sitting in the ring. And then suddenly, Zelina's music hits, and she comes down to the ring, followed by Shayna Baszler, as the two are scheduled to have a match. The ring announcer announces their names and everything. Suddenly, the bell rings, and Gunther is still cross-armed, sitting in the middle of the ring in a chair, not making eye contact with anyone. Both competitors and the referee try to get him to move, but Gunther will not look at anyone and he refuses to leave. Eventually, Zelina Vega just walks over and slaps Gunther as hard as she can. And he recoils a bit, but then he stands up and grabs Zelina by the throat and throws her into the corner and starts berating her and screaming at her. He raises his hand to chop her in the chest when Penta's music hits. He runs down to the ring and he chases Gunther off with a chair. Zelina Vega is okay, by the way. She's a trooper. She can handle it. She's pretty tough. And Adam Pearce then makes the match for the main event of Raw. Penta versus Gunther will main event Raw later in the night. In that match, Gunther starts getting cocky, and a distraction from Zelina Vega allows Penta to beat Gunther with the Penta Driver. 1, 2, 3. Gunther then grabs the mic again and once again demands that Triple H comes out and explains himself. He doesn't even care about the match. And this time, Triple H does come out. Triple H says that the reason he did it is because, Gunther, you don't deserve to face Finn again. That match last week was a complete waste of everyone's time, including mine. And when you're in the main event, you're supposed to act like it. Gunther, you used to act like you belonged in the main event, but now you act like a petulant child. So, you want to prove that you deserve to be champion again? Then win a triple threat match at Unforgiven by any means necessary. Triple H leaves, and the show goes off the air. The next week, September 29th, and the Raw before Unforgiven. Both Seth Rollins and John Cena are announced that they are cleared to compete. And so the match does go ahead as scheduled as the main event of Raw. John Cena cuts an impassioned promo at some point throughout the night, saying that this opportunity means more to me than it ever could to Seth, because this could be my very last one. I have a ton of respect for Seth, and I've been to war with him before, but Seth, you will never understand. Seth, you will have other chances after tonight, but for me, it's now or never. Seth also cuts a promo backstage at a different point in the night saying, "Your time is now? No. My time is now, all right? Your time was 10 years ago, and guess what, John? I beat you back then, too. I respect the hell out of you, John, and I wish you nothing but the best. And in many ways, I wish you weren't the one that's standing in my way. But you are. So I have no choice but to run straight through you and get back my World Heavyweight Championship." Main event starts, and both men are giving it everything they have and refuse to yield. But about 15 minutes into the match, Kaiser and Gunther hit the ring and take out both Cena and Rollins at the exact same time, causing a double disqualification. The two men then obliterate Cena and Rollins until Finn Balor chases the two men off with a chair as the show closes. But even still, Gunther smiles and laughs as he walks away, holding his neck, because the announcer says the result of this match is a double disqualification. And since neither John Cena nor Seth Rollins were the victor in this contest, neither man has qualified for the World Heavyweight Championship match at Unforgiven. But just then, as Gunther is walking up the ramp, Adam Pearce is heard yelling, "Enough! Enough! Gunther, I am getting so sick of your BS. Ruining my main events every week. Since you want to keep playing games, Gunther, here's your prize. Congrats! A fatal four-way match at Unforgiven. Finn Balor versus Gunther versus Seth freaking Rollins versus John Cena. And that's official." So, we arrive at WWE Unforgiven, and opening the show is the fatal four-way match between John Cena, Gunther, Seth Rollins, and the World Heavyweight Champion who obliged John Cena's request, the Demon, Finn Balor. Will this finally be it? Number 17? Will it be now, or will it be never? Every one of these excellent competitors gets a good amount of offense in. And everyone in this match has a legitimate near fall at some point in the match. Cena does the triple AA to the Demon, and the Demon kicks out. Balor hits the coup de grace on Cena, but Cena kicks out. Rollins hits the stomp onto Gunther. He kicks out, and Gunther finally, waiting since WrestleMania to get his hands on Cena, finally gets his chance, hits him with back-to-back power bombs, and Cena kicks out. This match will have everyone in the arena on the edge of their seat in anticipation the entire time, much like I hope it has Dan, and much like I hope it has all of you. Now let's get to the finish. Unlike at Clash of Champions, Gunther is able to lock the sleeper onto Balor and gets full control of Balor's body. Gunther gets on top of Balor, crushing him, but the Demon, of course, won't yield. He grabs a chair that was left in the ring and pulls it in close to his chest, waiting for the right moment to hit Gunther with it. But at that moment, Seth Rollins enters the ring and hits a stomp onto both Gunther and Balor at the same time, with Balor's head bouncing off of the chair in his hand, which knocks even the Demon out cold and also stuns Gunther a bit. Cena then pops back into the ring, lifts Rollins up, and hits an AA that drives him out of the ring. He then drags Gunther to the middle of the ring and locks in the STF and wrenches back with every ounce of strength he's got. Rollins is out of the ring. Balor is out cold. And after an astonishingly, agonizingly long 35 seconds, Gunther taps out to what I can only assume will be the biggest pop in WWE history. John Cena has done it. He has won World Championship number 17. The fireworks go off as the demon seethes in the corner of the barricade, feeling the sting of what it feels like to lose the championship without ever getting pinned, just like he won the title. Rollins, while upset he didn't win, can't help but smile at the sight of Cena holding up the championship. He's at least a little bit proud. And Gunther, no longer angry or desperate or cocky, he is simply defeated. He was desperate this whole time, not for revenge, not even to win, but for answers. Could he beat John Cena on his own? Could he beat the demon in a fair fight? Could he regain his world title? Tonight at Unforgiven, in his mind, he got his answer. And that answer was unequivocally no. Instead, he's tapped out for only the second time in his WWE career. Cena stands on the announce table holding up the championship as Michael Cole sings his praises and honestly probably cries. Cena holds up the belt, the camera zooms out, and suddenly Cena is speared off the announce table through the Spanish announce table by a man in a black sweatshirt and hood. That man quickly removes his hood to reveal Braun Breaker. He has returned from his 90-day suspension after 88 days. So that means he is technically still not a WWE superstar. So he knows his time is limited. He beats John Cena within an inch of his life as cops and security surround him. Eventually, the cops get a hold of him and put him in handcuffs in front of him. At the same time, Cena tries his best to crawl away, and he goes towards that famous far right corner of the barricade over towards that hard cam side of the ring. And when Breaker sees this, even though he's got his hands tied behind his back, or excuse me, in front of his waist, in handcuffs, and he's surrounded by police, surrounded by security. He still sprints all the way around the ring, starting at the announce table, goes all the way around, circling the whole ringside area. Cops and security dive out of the way so they don't get hit by this freight train, and he spears John Cena through the barricade with his hands still in handcuffs. Satisfied, Breaker gives himself up to the police, and now Adam Pearce and Triple H, as well as CM Punk, have come out to help restrain him. Triple H mostly has to restrain Punk from trying to kill Breaker at this point, but regardless, Breaker is led away in handcuffs. From complete euphoria to complete catastrophe in a matter of minutes. That brings us to the Raw after Unforgiven. A little ways into the show, Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee just wrapped up defeating the Creed brothers in a tag team match. As they are celebrating, John Cena's music hits. He storms down to the ring and he says the following: "Hey, Ray, I'm really sorry, man. I hate to interrupt you guys, but I got some business to take care of. Would you guys mind? Just I love you. I'm sorry. I got to get this. I got to wait a minute. You come here." Points to Dragon Lee, grabs Dragon Lee by his shoulder and says, "You listen to me. Whatever you do, never stop listening to this man." Pointing to Ray. "He is the real greatest of all time, and I mean that. Oh, by the way, I'm John. What's your name?" "Your first name is Dragon? Dude, all my mom gave me was John." No time. I don't have time. Nice to meet you, man. Seriously, I really got to get this done. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. I love you guys. Appreciate it. And again, I'm so sorry. God, I love you guys. Thank you. Ray and Lee leave the ring to the new World Heavyweight Champion. Before he can get any words out, the crowd serenades him with "You Deserve It" chants, and they last several minutes. Okay, guys. I don't have a lot of time to beat around the bush at this point, okay? So I have two things to say. Mr. Balor, you will get your rematch for this championship at Crown Jewel, okay? You didn't get beat last night. I know how much that sucks, and I'm a man of my word. At Crown Jewel, you will get your one-on-one rematch. Second, and most importantly, Braun Breaker, get your punk ass out here so I can rip you in half. After a decent sized pause, Cena is greeted not by Braun Breaker, but by Cody Rhodes. The WWE champion from SmackDown has surprised us all by appearing on Raw and interrupting John Cena. Rhodes says, John, I'm sorry to interrupt you, man. Watching you win that title last night. Cody, I love you, man, and it's great to see you. But like I said, I don't have a lot of time. So why don't you just tell me what you're doing here so I can move on to creating a new hole in Braun Breaker's forehead? So, what do you want to talk about, Cody? Cody goes, okay. I see what you did there. All right, I get it. I'll cut to the chase then. While you've been over here fighting for that number 17, congrats again, by the way, I've been turning away challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge on Friday nights. And you haven't come to visit me since your IC Open Challenge days. And man, that sucks. I've been waiting for you to come to my neck of the woods because I wanted to ask you a question. And that question is, you want to make history with me? And better than that, John, do you want to make history with me tonight? Look, I know, I get it, okay? You want to get your hands on Braun Breaker. I want you to get your hands on Braun Breaker. The whole damn world wants you to get your hands on Braun Breaker, but he breached his suspension on Saturday. That means he wasn't even technically under contract when he attacked you. It's the same as anybody in that crowd jumping you. He got arrested. That means he's certainly, almost certainly, I guess, I suppose, not here tonight. And he may be gone for a really long time if he ever comes back. So, how about it? Just one night. You don't think about Braun Breaker. You don't think about that title. You don't think about anything. You just think about me. Think about the main event of Monday Night Raw, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, World Heavyweight Champion versus WWE Champion right here tonight. And don't worry, I know you're beat up a bit, so I'll go easy on you. And Cena replies, You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Rhodes. But know this, tonight is not the night you want to mess with me. I'll slap that ridiculous tattoo right off your neck. Your arm. Rhodes says, I wouldn't want it any other way. See you later, John. Rhodes drops his mic and leaves the ring. And as promised, the main event of Monday Night Raw at whatever town this is in, what a lucky ducky crowd they are. Main event is Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, champion versus champion. But unfortunately, the main event is ruined by Finn Balor. He attacks Cody and gets Cena disqualified before attacking Cena. Rhodes eventually gets back up, fights off Finn Balor, who scampers away to end the show. A match is then made for the following SmackDown, which will be Finn Balor versus Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes trying to get a little revenge for ruining the match with John. And John Cena also appears in a backstage segment with Cody before the match. Seems he took it to heart that he hadn't come and visited Cody previously. Cody tells Cena that he can handle Balor alone, and Cena thanks Cody for a fun match on Monday. You know, Cody, it was really nice actually not to think about revenge for a few minutes and just have some fun again. So thank you. The moment is then interrupted by Randy Orton. He gives Cena a big hug, followed by giving Cody a big hug right after. Cody leaves, and Randy says, Man, that Breaker kid, he's something else. You still got enough joint lubrication to deal with that and move that fast, man? Really, Randy? You're calling me old? Oh, I'm calling you old. Oh, yeah, you're old as hell. Oh, God. No, but seriously, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm sick of watching that guy attack you over and over again. So if you ever need anything, you can always just call. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate that. They hug again. Cena says, Well, duty calls, and he leaves. Rhodes then picks up the victory against Balor later on in the night. Next couple of weeks go by with the standard feud build up you would expect at this point. Couple of key notes though. On the October 20th edition of Raw, Cena and CM Punk team up to defeat the team of Finn Balor and Bronson Reed, who inserted himself into the situation by volunteering to be Finn's partner. And it is confirmed that at Crown Jewel, it will be the Demon, Finn Balor, versus the World Heavyweight Champion, John Cena, for the title in a last man standing match. And at that show, John Cena AAs the Demon through the Spanish announce table and then flips the other announce table on top of the Demon. So Finn Balor is trapped for the full count of 10. And John Cena retains the championship. He has beaten the Demon again. But once again, Braun Breaker makes his presence known, this time by hitting Cena in the back with a chair again, much like at WrestleMania. This time, security and police are much quicker to respond, as is CM Punk, who gets a couple of good shots in on Breaker while he's being restrained. Once again, Braun Breaker is led off in handcuffs, and we don't know what his employment status is. And that is it. That is the end of Crown Jewel.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. I like the surprise from Braun Breaker just showing up, especially just spear out of nowhere. Very interesting there. Love it a lot, dude. I was actually taking a few notes here and there as you were talking. So I'm like, okay, I got to remember a couple things here to as you get done. But overall, dude, that was I was hooked the whole ride. I
Good.
we obviously did have some things to play with PLEs when we first started this out. So I love the creativity that you took there, especially with the Tokyo thing, and Ta- Takanashi. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Tanahashi. Tanahashi, yeah.
Tanahashi. Didn't even write it down right apparently. Tanahashi. I think that's cool. Obviously that's probably the very extreme of fantasy booking, but I mean,
Of course.
you never say never. It's he's retired from WWE.
Right.
But no, I think it's cool. I also thought it funny too, just how I had to chuckle a few times where you were just kind of saying phrases, and it's like I'm always certain phrases you always hear like certain people in the wrestling lore always say like I hear this and I couldn't impersonate her voice at all. But when it said excuse me, I just her voice was just Vicky's voice was just ringing through my head there.
Yeah.
But I know that's a very weird reaction to some of what you did there. But yeah, no, I mean I think a lot of what you said, makes sense. You got a lot of
Yeah.
you have a lot of top card players there. We've been wanting the Demon back for a while, since Roman crushed him a couple years ago, 3 years ago maybe now.
Yeah.
So it's nice to. I think that's something that we all want back, and I think if Judgment Day were to evolve again, and it was he that was the odd man out. I mean, I think that'd be even a better reason for him to bring that persona back. I think that'd be great, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too that you mentioned that Gunther is only up at this point, but with your booking that puts it up to two, but he's only tapped one time in his career. Was that in like NXT or NXT UK then that happened?
Yeah, so Dragunov, when he
Of course,
ended the reign of 800 and whatever days UK champion, Gunther tapped to Dragunov, and that's only
nice,
that was the only time he's tapped. So obviously he doesn't get beat very often. So
right?
it's not like it's not like he's been pinned 190 times and only submitted once. Like he's only really been pinned like 3 or 4 times.
Right. No, I
So
mean, yeah, Gunther has to have like at least 300 days in his title reign, or it doesn't count. So,
Yeah.
you
So,
know,
but I will say, if I may, I know we're wanting to get through this, but I do have a couple things I
yeah,
wanted to kind of talk about here. So Tanahashi was my plan B in this booking. So I'm gonna be fully upfront with you, Dan. My first choice was Kota Ibushi.
okay,
And the reason why Kota Ibushi is because he announced about a week before I wrote the story that his injuries have gotten so bad that he's not sure how much time he has left to wrestle. Like his injuries have just been so brutal.
Mhm.
That's why he hasn't been on AEW TV in so long. And so there's been conversations as to whether he's even going to ever come back to AEW or if they're just going to release him.
Mm.
And so I wanted to kind of figure out a way to make that happen, but that would be assuming a lot of things. Obviously, wrestling somebody in New Japan is possible, even though they're working with AEW, but wrestling somebody that's also contracted to AEW is impossible right now.
Right.
Like, and I think it's going to be impossible for a long, long time. So eventually, I kind of left that, and then I actually pivoted to Zack Saber Jr. I thought that that would be fun, like Cena just wrestling like Zack Saber Jr. out in Japan. I thought that that
Mhm.
would be a really fun match. Obviously, everybody loves Zack Saber Jr. He's one of the best workers in the world. But then I kind of was like, I mean, why? Like, why would that ever happen? What's the story other than just it being a cool match? I couldn't really put it together. And in kind of figuring things out, I stumbled on that Tanahashi said he was going to retire. And I was like, you know what? I think I might just have to do Tanahashi because, like, the story's there. They
Right.
both are in a similar spot in their careers. Obviously, Tanahashi is, I don't even know if I would say he's the greatest Japanese wrestler of all time because I'd say that's a given. He might be the greatest wrestler of all time. Like, if you look at his accolades, I mean, nobody touches him. I mean, obviously
Mhm.
he hasn't won as many world titles as Cena, but he's won like 50 something championships in Japan. Like he's been there
Wow.
forever. He's won the G1 Climax tournament. Heck, he won the G1 I think in 2017 when he was like in his late 40s. Like the dude is just
Wow.
a dude's just a beast, and he's been a good guy his whole career too. So it's not even just like, he's a really good wrestler with a lot of accolades. Like he is the
Mhm.
John Cena of Japan. Like he's never been a bad guy. He's been a good guy his whole career, right? Just like obviously Cena started off as a bad guy very, 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 very early, but once he hit that world title spot, he never turned heel. From 2005 on, he was a good guy,
Right.
right? Just like Tanahashi. So I thought that that would be a really fun match, considering this is like, WWE, I think, is going to make one-time exceptions on this retirement tour, or should make one-time exceptions on this retirement tour. That is just fan service. What matches do we want to see before Cena stops? Like, who wouldn't want to see the greatest wrestler of the West and the greatest wrestler of the East fight each other? I mean, that's
Right.
anime comic book stuff right there. Like, that's what
Yeah.
people like make fan arts about. Like where two of them have like the Super Saiyan flash in the background and they're like, like, that's what people make. People do that. So
Right.
I thought that'd be cool. And then the demon thing, um, yeah, that was a difficult one to book. And I have a lot more story that I think ties it all together that I obviously skipped through because we're trying to save a little time here. Um, but yeah, I think bringing the demon back, obviously, I'm just a big fan of it. But
Right.
also, I think given the story with Gunther's mental collapse here and the complete breakdown of who he is as a character
Mhm. Which was
and the
also
actual
very well done too. That I
thank
really
you.
liked how you did that.
And
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. I thought that it was the perfect time to bring him back, especially in Japan. That was because in Japan,
Yeah.
I mean, he won the NXT title in Japan as the
Okay.
Demon. He used to paint his body all the time for big matches when he was in the Bullet Club over in Japan. Like
Hmm.
that's like they love that stuff in Japan. So to not have the Demon be there for 3 years and then suddenly the Demon shows up in Japan, like that crowd would go nuts for that. And
Yeah.
also, like again, the I'm Gunther. I'm dominant. I'm going to just beat the crap out of this guy because I should. And he truly believes that, or at least he should
Mhm.
believe it, but he's kind of starting to lose it. And Balor is like laughing at him. And, like I didn't say this in the actual booking, but I have a segment where Balor comes down to the ring and Gunther attacks him and Balor just throws his arms behind his back and just dodges everything that Gunther throws at him. And he's just okey doking him the whole time, and Gunther's getting so pissed off that he can't even touch back. And Balor's just so smug and confident, and you're like, where has this Finn Balor been? My God. Like,
Yeah.
it's so confusing. And then it's almost like when he comes out as a demon, everyone understands why he'd been acting that way. That and bringing him back, Gunther's not prepared for that. Gunther loses. Now he's getting more in his head because he said he was prepared for everything. And oh my God, I just lost again. Now, what do I do? Like, and then he just keeps getting more and more desperate. And it's just a spiral. It just keeps going down, down, down. It was a real slow burn. Started at Mania, you
Hmm.
know. Then at SummerSlam, he fought Logan Paul and he didn't even beat Logan Paul. And it's just a slow degrading. And I think if you're gonna, because I think and I promise I'll wrap up here. I think obviously the unstoppable juggernaut Gunther is awesome. That's the Walter, that's the Gunther that I fell in love with on the independent circuit in NXT UK, in NXT, on SmackDown, now on Raw. Like, he's been that his whole career. And I think that's great that you can always have that kind of Brock Lesnar esque final boss, not The Rock, but oh, you think you've made it. You haven't
Right.
fought him yet. He's gonna let us know if you've made it. He's gonna get the best match of your career out of you, and he's gonna beat you half to death. And if you survive that, maybe you have made it, right? Like that's kind of like to have that guy's awesome. But I also think at a certain point, it's gonna wear out its welcome with casual WWE fans of this guy cutting the same kind of promos, having the same kind of attitude, doing the same exact things, always with a championship all the time. I think you have to have some depth to the character so that when he loses the championship, because they say this on Raw all the time, 80% of Gunther's career has had a championship in it. That's a
Yeah.
fact. 80% of
Yeah.
the time he's been in the company, he's had a. So his entire gimmick, you can say gimmick, is he wins championships and he holds them for a really long time. Well, what is Gunther when he doesn't have a championship?
Hmm.
If he loses a championship and he doesn't have anywhere else to go, you will completely destroy his character if you don't have other aspects of the character to pull from. So I'm
Right.
giving that character aspects to pull from so that inevitably, I'll just spoil this, he does not win the championship back after this, right? At least not in my booking. What do you do with him? Do you just sit him at home until it's time for him to win the belt back and then do the same thing? No, you have to.
Right.
He has to be able to tell stories while not being champion. So that's really the thing that I wanted. But yeah, man, I this was a labor of love, dude. It took me a
I can
long
tell.
time to
I
kind
can
of get
tell.
all this stuff to fit, but yeah, man. Thank you for the kind words there.
Oh yeah, of course. No, of course. I've been looking forward to this for a while because you definitely dropped a few little hints for me, and but here and there. But I'm definitely definitely wasn't expecting that, and I mean I can't wait to see where the rest of this goes, and
Yeah,
you
I
know
was just about to say, dude, if you think this was nuts, wait till
yeah.
part four.
No, I have a feeling we're gonna get a
Not
very
Tanahashi nuts. That's really out there. I don't do
yeah,
anything
yeah.
like, but that's still nuts.
I feel more we're gonna get more of an emotional talk the way you're kind of
Yeah.
ending this one. So I'm very curious to see
Oh
where
yeah.
this ends up for you. Well, cool.
Let's
No, I
get it,
agree.
Dan.
What's that?
I said, let's get it, Dan. I'm excited to hear your stuff.
All right, yeah. Let's move on to mine here. Yeah, I it was a struggle kind of doing a few things here, but I finally settled on something, and it's just been slowly marinating in my head
Yeah.
the last couple weeks, and just getting it down on paper. Really just putting some things through. I will say at the AOP release, kind of threw a few couple little kinks off.
Yeah.
Not as bad as it could be. I feel like I can still tell where I want to go. I didn't feel like I had to completely, redo a lot of stuff, but I was like, man,
Sure.
they're kind of a linchpin for kind of the end of this chapter verse and the beginning of the
Yeah.
next chapter. But we'll cross that bridge and redo that bridge here in a little bit. And but I mean, I can
Right.
still. I feel like there's still enough players to work with who I'm going to bring up here in a minute. And but yeah, let's get into it. And I
Right.
want to rewind a little bit in the booking, bring up a couple things that I've booked before, and kind of give a more reason of why some things happen. So I need to bring up someone we know, someone you really know well as a wrestler, someone I've gotten to appreciate more what he's done. He's been in and out of the company. He's a bona fide NXT star. His main roster run vastly different from NXT. But I'm liking what they're doing with him. He's a manipulator, playing an extremely long game. It's time to reveal a lot of things for my booking. The man behind a few things is none other than Karrion Cross.
Hmm.
So he's going to play a thread throughout the rest of this booking with John Cena. So if you remember back when I booked John Cena to get into the Rumble, obviously again some things did not happen how we wanted to happen, but sticking back to my you know through through story here, had Cena get into the Rumble because someone was pulled because they got hurt. Montez Ford was hurt. Well, the guy that was behind that attack, the guy that manipulated stuff, that was Karrion Cross. Or if you remember when Carmelo Hayes came out to confront John Cena before Money in the Bank, again, that was Karrion pulling the strings. In the final weeks that Cena was on Raw, Karrion was helping getting Carmelo Hayes matches not against great talent like we've seen, matches just against guys he could beat. He wanted Carmelo to build a winning streak. He beat like Santos, Austin Theory, Tamatonga. The mid carders that could really help elevate Hayes, but not make him look like he was beating jobbers. So tough matches, but matches that became wins to boost Carmelo's confidence. That's why Carmelo came out so hot against Cena. Um, we don't really get a lot of interactions between John Cena and Karrion until we get closer to SummerSlam with end of our part two booking. Um, Karrion's, kind of thrown out thrown out there in different podcasts. He seen it at the top of his list of wanting to work. A couple years ago that he threw this out there, and now that we're at this retirement tour, can't help but think that's probably eating at Karrion to make something like that. So you know, I'm going with this booking where he's trying to make things happen to, you know, get that match with Cena in a weird, twisted way, but in a very Karrion Cross way. I feel we see Karrion starting to pull strings elsewhere, leading to SummerSlam and even beyond SummerSlam. They do run into each other. Cena's friendly. He even brings up, "Hey, I know you said you want to face me sometime." He's like, "That's great. I think we put on a really really good match together. Maybe we can do it sometime. Let's just see how some things go." So Karrion kind of approaches Cena here and there again, leading up to SummerSlam, beyond SummerSlam, just kind of getting in his head. But Cena kind of like, okay, man, you're getting a little too overeager here. And so he starts trying to put distance between him and Karrion, trying to, keep his eye out for Karrion as he walks into the building. He's like, oh, and he fakes a phone call or whatever. Just goes out of his way, to avoid Karrion. After SummerSlam here. And to me, Karrion sees this. He's like, okay, I'm finally getting in his head. I'm happy. He's satisfied. And we see a segment backstage, a little bit of prior to SummerSlam as well, where we see Karrion speaking to Scarlett. He's like, the plan is coming together. It's slow, but he's like, it's coming together. Karrion feels he can keep pulling the right strings. He'll get an important match with Cena at the perfect time. And then once he gets that match, he's very confident everybody will notice how good of a wrestler he is, and he's not just a novelty act or just a one trick NXT pony. Cena is the ultimate goal for Cross, but he's going to need plenty of help from the locker room at the right time and the right villains created at the right time as well during this. One of the biggest villains that he helps create, or he helps enhance because he's already kind of a villain, but he just enhances a certain villain. It's a lone Maverick. I'm gonna go back one more PLE back to Money in the Bank. We see Karrion cross his hands in the pot once again. Logan Paul had a forgettable summer. He lost out on big matches, attempts to go for the World Heavyweight Championship. The Swerve Cross came in. He's like, hey, you can do this. And he's like, make sure you get in the Money in the Bank. He's like, I'll talk to the right people, but make sure you position yourself to be in Money in the Bank. He knows Logan just needs the right atmosphere, the right type of match, and the Money in the Bank just seems perfect. Just carefree, willing to go to the tops of, leap off of the rope, leap across the ring on the rope, so it's like, why not try to fly on top of ladders? And Logan just kind of just, he's like, you know what? I don't need a qualifier. So he just like, you know what? I'm just declaring for the Money in the Bank. And he refuses to qualify for it. And he just bamboozles and tricks his way into it. Triple H finally relents and he's like, okay, Logan, you can be in Money in the Bank. Well, Logan Paul pulls off the heist and becomes the 2025 men's Money in the Bank winner. And I find this actually funny too because you had mentioned him. So we'll have to talk a little bit more about Logan Paul after this. Um, the next week though, Karrion is like, okay, now we have to be strategic. He's like, let me put some other things in motion, and you'll know when exactly you need to cash in this briefcase. So he's like, but just be patient. You'll know the right time for cashing in this Money in the Bank. So post SummerSlam, we finally passed SummerSlam here. We get another conversation between Karrion and Cena. Cross just puffs Cena up, tells him, "You're the goat, man. We all agree." He's like, "You are the goat. You haven't won a lot of matches recently. You haven't won a lot of matches this year outside of your short Intercontinental title run." And he's like, "Cena, I know you want more." And Cena begrudgingly agrees with him. He's like, but I'm about. And he tells Cross, "Is like, yeah, I agree with you, and I'm on my way to the ring right now to say what his next steps are in the ring." But he's like, I gotta address my fans. We're not just gonna have a conversation here. I'm addressing the fans. So Cross gets a big smile. He's like, yeah, I'm getting into Cena's head more. We see Cena walk off, and then right before we watched Cena go to the ring, we see behind Karrion Cross some hooded figures jump the current World Heavyweight Championship title holder in Gunther. And they beat him up bad. He gets thrown against road cases, slammed through some tables, gets tossed around all throughout backstage. Eventually, medics arrive on the scene as we go to break. And as we come back, we see Gunther on a stretcher into an ambulance. This whole time, Cena has no idea what's going on. He's working his way through Gorilla, goes up to the ring. So we cut to, you know, as an audience, we come back, we see, Gunther being stretched off, and then Cena's there to just address the crowd. He's like, this is totally unexpected, but he's like, I came out here to address, so I'm going to go about something, but I guess that's going to, who knows? He's like, I guess we don't know whatever's going to happen. But Cena says he's honestly exhausted of all the ways, sorry, he goes into explaining that he's tried everything he can to qualify for a championship. He did the Rumble, he did the Chamber, he tried for the Money in the Bank, he failed at all of them. He did escape it. He couldn't get, he just couldn't even get past the first round of the King of the Ring tourney. So he's just downtrodden, a little sad. Not what we usually see from Cena. And he's like, maybe number 17 isn't meant to be. And then this causes the crowd to chant, well, you can do it. You can do it. You deserve it. We get those types of chants. And he says he knows he does deserve it. He knows he can do it, but he says time is short. It's like maybe I just need to focus on finish up the retirement tour with matches the fans want to see. So maybe you'll listen to this. With that, he says, stay tuned. I'll be back in a couple more weeks. We'll set up some matches that fans will love. As Cena walks out of the ring, we cut to Adam Pearce, and he's just on the phone trying to just figure out different options for the World Heavyweight Championship now that Gunther and has been taken to the ambulance. It's pretty clear Gunther is going to be out for multiple weeks, maybe even months after the beating he took. Into Pierce's office walks a returning Bronson Reed. Reed asks what's around for him to destroy. He's been on the show for too long, and he wants someone to punish. Pierce is like, well, you're in luck. He said, the World Heavyweight Championship is vacant, and we need to put some people in a tournament or something. Pierce is just kind of thinking on the fly. He's like, let's do this. Let's do 4 qualifiers so we can set up a fatal 4-way for the World Heavyweight Championship. We'll do this at a Saturday night's main event. He's like, and actually, Bronson, you can have your match right now. Once we get back from the break, you'll be out in the ring and you'll be facing Seth freaking Rollins. During the said match, the commentators announced the rest of these qualifying matchups. The second qualifier is later that episode. 2 more the next week. They really need to um, get a champion so they can put the World Heavyweight Championship on the show for the PLE in Paris. So I'm using that one for since it's been announced. It worked well for mine. Just stay with the PLE in Paris. Clash in Paris. I guess they're going to keep with the Clash titles here, but Pierce wants the World Heavyweight Championship showcased in that. The rest of the qualifying matches, we are going to get CM Punk versus Dominic Mysterio, Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor, and another returning wrestler, Ilya Dragunov, and he's going to face off against Sheamus. Running through the qualifiers, we get Bronson Reed winning his qualifier. He ends up one-upping Rollins yet again. And CM Punk toys with Dominic, but he eventually pulled off the win there. CM Punk wins his qualifier. We're getting to at this point, we're getting towards the end of August here. The next week, we see Cross waiting again for Cena to arrive at the arena. He greets John. He says he's sorry for all the losing he's counted in his final year. But Cross asks, doesn't it seem odd that he didn't go to a qualifier for the World Heavyweight Championship? It's like, we all know you deserve it. And Cross is like, you certainly do deserve to be in this discussion of obtaining a spot for the vacant title, just like everyone else has. Cena says, yeah, I know I should be, but it's true, but he's fine. He understands he can't always be in every single qualifying match. So he just dismisses Cross right now, but it is kind of bothering him. But he goes at him Pierce, but he's like, hey, have fun with the World Heavyweight Championship. Looks like you're, doing well with that there. He's like, what else could we do for matches? So him and Pierce talk. And Karrion Kross actually, when we see them part ways, he just starts talking to himself. He's like, I've got everything under control. And he decides to call Triple H. They're best buds. Later in the show, Kross lets Scarlett in on the plan. He says that Cena is going through just a rough patch, but he's pretty sure he can get Triple H to help him out. He says that Triple H, I got an idea, but we'll circle back to that idea here in this story. The other qualifiers, again, Bronson won the first one, Punk won his. Braun Breaker beats down Balor, and Ilya gets past Sheamus for his qualifier. So we have a fatal 4-way that will be at let's just say Saturday night's main event. We get a fatal 4-way between Braun Breaker, Ilya, Punk, and Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed pulls the impossible off, though, by just returning and already becoming the World Heavyweight Champion essentially overnight. The Raw after Saturday night's main event, Karrion Kross, John Cena, keep crossing paths. It gets more intense every time they cross paths together. He tells Cena, hey, wheels are in more motion. He's like, we've had that fatal 4-way, so we finally have a championship winner. But that championship winner needs an opponent, right? Kross says he got Triple H on board. He personally approved the idea. And all the details will be saved. here soon, but he's gonna have to be prepared for what he's gonna have to go through. So we get to uh, the go home show of Raw before the PLE in Paris. Triple H actually opens up the show that week. He says that an international PLE is a big deal, so he's excited for what Paris will have, and he needs a really good, worthy contender for Bronson Reed in Paris. He needs to find that right opponent. So Triple H figures, what a better way to test a group of superstars than a gauntlet match. He apologizes that Cena has to start this match from the get go, but he calls Cena to come on down. Nonetheless, you're starting the gauntlet match, and he's like, John, your first opponent is going to be awesome. And then the Miz's music hits, and the Miz comes on down for the first entrant of the gauntlet match. Six guys all in this gauntlet match here. First, first guy is Miz. Cena eliminates Miz fairly well, fairly easily. Puts him in an STF. Next up, Sami Zayn. They knock each other around for a good bit, but in the end, Zayn is trying to go for a hell of a luva kick, misses it. That allows Cena to get him in an A one more time, and then that pins Sami. Out next, Austin Theory. One more little rabbit trail here. Austin Theory, at this point, I feel, especially with the move to Raw, I do foresee that him and Grayson Waller will be splitting. I figure get a few months on Raw, but maybe around WrestleMania, right after WrestleMania, they end up breaking up. Just Grayson and Theory just finally just not on the same page anymore, and this allows Theory to pursue kind of a singles career again. And what better way than to be involved with a possible World Heavyweight Championship opportunity? But nonetheless, Theory doesn't can't face this version of John Cena. Theory beat him once, but he can't beat him again. So now Cena is just super hyped. He's got three people down, and he just starts pumping himself up, pumping the crowd up. We're basically seeing Super Cena reinvented here. The last two of this gauntlet match, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins. So it doesn't get any easier with these two for Cena. Balor, he just never gives up like we always see. He needs multiple AAs before he's finally dispatched. Seth, on the other hand, he just gives Cena 20 minutes of hell. Multiple near falls, close calls. Cena eats a couple stomps, but still kicks out. The crowd even gets into it. They say never give up, never give up. And so Cena just gets this all hyped. He feeds off the crowd, as we've seen so many times. But to finally end Rollins, Cena has to go for a super AA off the top rope. He finally hits it, gets Rollins, and gets the 1, 2, 3 pin. Finally, he wins this gauntlet match. So in Paris, we've got Cena, we've got Bronson Reed for the World Heavyweight Championship. All of a sudden, Cena's like number 17 is back as a possibility. It's within my grasp. He's exhausted. He can't believe it's possible. But we one more time before we go off air, we see Karrion Kross and Logan Paul. They were watching the match on TV, and we see them walking away as the credits roll. But we do overhear Karrion Kross say, "Logan, good luck in Paris. Good luck in Paris." So at Clash in Paris, Bronson and Cena obviously, I think, just going to tear the house down. I think it's a really intriguing matchup for them. Just the athleticism and size of Bronson. Cena has faced similar people like that before, so he's not a stranger to wrestling bigger dudes. But Bronson just seems to be an impossible mountain. Cena tries in the middle of the match just a ton of shoulder blocks just to try to get him off his feet, and they really don't even move Bronson. Like I really don't see Bronson, getting moved out of the way very much by a lot of Cena's moves. And Cena jumps a couple submission moves, but just Bronson's just He's just too big. It's just too hard for Cena. So Cena has to go deep in the well of his moves of doom. I don't remember if you remember the sixth move of doom back a few years ago, but he has to pull that out. But just as he's lining up all these moves against Bronson, guess whose music hits? It's the Maverick. It's Logan Paul. We
Brooklyn
don't see him
Brawler.
at first. Hmm?
Thought I had
we
that
we
one.
don't
Sorry.
no we don't see him at first though. Bronson, he's out of the map for a moment, not like completely out of it, but he's just taking a breather from this match as long as this match is going around. Cena just looks around, runs around the ring, doesn't see Logan Paul. Logan Paul's not coming down the ramp. He's like, "What's going on here?" And then all of a sudden, we finally see Logan Paul running through the crowd toward the ring. Someone sees him right before John Cena does, though. And that's Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's like, no, 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 we cannot have Logan Paul interfere in this banger of a match. And so Pat throws his headset off, and he actually tries to leave the commentary to slow Logan Paul down, but Logan just trucks him. He just trucks him like he was a football player, like Logan was a football player. And so Logan's just even madder right now. So Logan rushes the ring, he makes it, hands the briefcase to the ref, and he's like, "Put me in, put me in, put me in." So now we have a triple threat. And it's very key to, I think Logan's Paul character as far and as what Logan has to usually resort to win his matches to make this a triple threat. At this point, Bronson Reed, he's back on his feet, and right away, once Logan gets in the ring, he just nails Logan in the corner, and Bronson Reed just starts wailing on him. Cena lets this play out for a little bit, then he joins the fray. Then Cena and Logan both dump Bronson out of the ring, but Reed is just almost immediately right back in, climbs the top rope, goes for a tsunami. Logan sees us. He recognizes us quickly enough and just pushes Cena right in the path of this tsunami. He gets out of dodge. So Cena's taken out by the tsunami. He's down. He's down for a few seconds here. And then while Bronson gathers himself from giving that tsunami to Cena, Paul gets out his brass knuckles and knocks out Bronson Reed for good in this match. Ref, as the ref says, counts to 1, 2. Cena somehow staggers up, stands up, and just falls over onto Paul and Bronson and breaks up the pin. So Logan's he's just hyped. He's on adrenaline. And it just made even madder now. He's like, I was so close. And so he goes for the low blow on Cena. He's like, I just got to do what I got to do to win this. So he hits the low blow. Cena falls over Bronson Reed. Logan goes up to the top rope, does a splash on both competitors, and finally gets a full 1, 2, 3. Logan Paul is our world heavyweight champion at the end of August here. John Cena just sits in the ring, stunned, dejected, confused. The credits roll, and Michael and Pat and Wade, they're all on commentary. They're all just solemn as they recap the match and the rest of the card, basically, as we end up the PLE. They're just like in shock. I think as much shock as Cena is. It's like, this is supposed to be number 17. This is supposed to be the crowning moment. So the first Raw of September, we don't get Cena. And that just makes Logan Paul even more insufferable. He has a celebration. He just goads on both Bronson and Cena because we don't see Bronson on this episode either. So Paul just has the time of his life. He thinks he's all that, and it'll come back to him though. I think. On the next Raw, mid September, we finally get John Cena. He kicks off the show. We see him go through the gorilla thing that they do, run down the ramp. He has his towel out, but it seems just a little bit of a step slower after being in Paris. He just soaks in the crowd, paces the ring, just says thank you, and the crowd chants more. But he's like, I got some things to get off my chest. And he's about to launch into his speech, and Logan Paul ruins this too. He comes out to the top of the ramp, and he just holds up that championship belt. for a few beats, doesn't say a thing. It's just boos raining from the crowd, and Cena just staring at him, disgusted. And before Cena can say anything, Logan Paul is like, he gets on the mic. He's like, "We know what you're gonna say, Cena." He's like, "We know we're gonna get Cena apologizing for not bringing the championship up, for not breaking the record, regretting that he didn't watch his back for when Logan came down the ring because he knew that Logan was lurking, but he wasn't watching his back." Logan then goes on to say he's no longer lurking; he's right here, and he's like, "Cena, is there really a worse way to lose this championship?" He says, "Of course not. You lost it on a cash in again." Or I shouldn't say again, but Cena failed it. Cena failed the Money in the Bank. Logan brings that up, and he's like, "But I cash it in and on you on top of it." Logan is like, "I embrace the hate. The crowd hates me. That doesn't bother me. I know it." So Logan Paul and Cena, they go back and forth a little more, with Logan finally saying, "John, you know what? Out of the kindness of my heart, I grant you a rematch without you even having to ask for it. Yes, what I did was rude and unfair and opportunistic, but I know you would have done it if the roles were reversed, Cena." And he also states that he's not afraid of the has been. He's like, if Cena thinks he can beat the Maverick straight up, let's do it. Let's run this. He's like, the next PLE, which I'm going to call Bad Blood since that's what we had this past October. Bad Blood, it's just a few weeks away. So let's have some fun. You know what? I'll even let you pick a stipulation. I'll give you anything you want. I know I got this match. I'm not worried about it. You're the has been. I'm the next big thing. So you can even pick a stipulation. Cena calls him a brave young man and says, "You got it." He'll have the stipulation for him next week. Later in the show, Pierce signs off on this match and declares the go home show to Bad Blood to be a contract signing, and this will be where the revealing of the stipulation is. On the go home show, we get both to the ring rather quickly. The boos of Logan quickly turn to cheers as Cena's music hits. Cena signs without hesitation and then asks Pierce to reveal the stipulation. Pierce says he and Cena talked at length about this. A steel cage seemed appropriate, but didn't really want to mirror Punk and Drew from 2024. They thought about ladders, but Cena said Logan Paul's been there, done that. So they settled on a tables match. Logan Paul's like, okay, I can deal with that. And in a true tables match here, where you once you get pushed to the table, you've lost. Paul signs as well, and before they depart the ring, Bronson Reed shows back up again, and he just gets on the mic and he says, "Whoever wins this match between you two, I've got next." We hit Bad Blood. John Cena, Logan Paul. High flying match for Paul. Cena just shows his strength over and over, his stamina. They both get near falls. They both get near falls with the table. Paul at one point attempts to push Cena off the apron into a table, but Cena is able to kind of grab the bottom rope before he fully falls. But he lands like right in between the ring and the table, and he just kind of rolls under the table. So he's good. He's like got away with that one. He gets back in the ring. They go back and forth, a couple shoulder tackles, and Cena attempts to modify AA into the table in the corner that's set up in the corner of the ring. Logan is able to kind of uh, counter this AA. He's able to kind of stick the landing, so he doesn't fully hit the table. Um, but Logan hits the top rope at the same time as happening, so kind of gets the wind knocked out of him. So he's just kind of dazed, taking a breather, and there's no table set at the moment. So Cena's like, "Well, gotta set up another table." They go back and forth in the ring a little more. Finally, John Cena gets that AA up again, and he gets Logan into the table. No problem. Bell rings. John Cena has finally become the most decorated champion in WWE history and has beat one of the most hated wrestlers in WWE history to do it. So, icing on the cake for all involved. On the post Bad Blood Raw, Cena gives an epic speech. You know, and honestly, I mean, I imagine a speed epic speech. I can't even come up with words. Kind of what you're saying, like between them, in a couple matches, it's like a couple of things you want to see, but I mean, truly coming up with words of this type of a speech, I cannot do it justice. I'm sure the crowd would be bonkers for him for like 10 minutes. Kind of that
Sure.
they'll die down when he tries to talk. He'll still talk for like 2 words, and they'll roar again for another 5 minutes. So literally just a half hour celebration, and Cena's get like 5 words in. But he deserves it. He deserves the adulation. But the one thing that always happens whenever we have a new champion, competitors come out of the woodwork. Bronson Reed had called next, so he comes right out. It's like, Cena, let's go. We got to finish what we had. Let's go. I want my title back. But as soon as Bronson Reed says that, out comes Seth freaking Rollins. He's like, Cena, it's been a while since we've battled each other with a title on the line. It's been 10 years. Let's run it back again. One more time, huh? What do you think? So he's like, and I want the championship I created back. He's like, Reed, you get out of the way. I created this championship. I want it back. But we get two more people to come out. CM Punk comes out. He tells both Reed and, sorry, we only get one person coming out, but it's Punk. He tells Reed, Rollins gets to the back of the line. He's like, what doesn't the crowd want? Well, why wouldn't the crowd want something between myself and John Cena? Punk, Cena for a championship? We need this. The crowd eats this up. Logan Paul does try to say something, but all three of Reed, Punk, and Rollins just beat him up, and so Logan Paul just hightails it. But he does say he's coming for it too. Adam Pearce comes out. He's like, "Okay, everybody settle down. Everybody settle down. We'll figure out a contender for John Cena, because John Cena, you will defend this championship at Crown Jewel." And we get there, but we get Karrion Kross back involved in the picture again here. We go to backstage after all this, after Pierce numbers announces we'll figure out a more contender, says there'll be a tournament for this. And oddly enough, Karrion Kross and Logan Paul are gonna have a match together. So Karrion just stares at him. He's like, "Well, I won't be holding back on this one, Logan. I helped you, but I won't be holding back on this match." Other matches in this tournament, we will get Penta versus Seth Rollins, CM Punk versus Finn Balor, and Sami Zayn versus The Miz. Kind of trying to kind of keep in that theme of top carders, but guys that are also Cena adjacent as well here. Logan Paul actually ends up beating Karrion Kross though, and Sami Zayn beats The Miz, so we get a matchup of Logan Paul versus Sami in the second round of this tournament. Penta pulls off an upset against Seth Rollins, and then faces CM Punk, who beat Balor. Reed is a little offended by all this because he's like, I should have been in this tournament, but Reed, I feel, will have his revenge soon. Let's see. So our Trinity Finals is actually Logan Paul, CM Punk. Punk ends up victorious here though, because he just somehow thwarts all the multiple cheating attempts from Logan. He's quick on his feet. Logan tries whatever he can, but CM Punk emerges victorious. So Crown Jewel, CM Punk, John Cena. A match to end all matches between these two. This match, fast paced, moves filled match between the two of them. They attempt multiple finishers, finisher spam. I know it can be overdone, but I don't mind it here with these two. These two have a long, long history. Multiple finishers on each other. They even hit some of each other's moves. But Punk at some point says to Cena, he's like, "Look, I love you, man, but I need this title now. You got your 17th championship. I need this. I will not quit this match." He's like, "I need this title sooner." Cena goes for one more AA. Punk reverses it. and he gets a third GTS in. It nails Cena perfectly. Cena just collapses, and all of a sudden, just like that, the 17th reign of a world champion for John Cena is over. CM Punk has now become the first has become the champion for the first time since rejoining the company. So that is my booking so far through Crown Jewel. Had to get a little nostalgia in there, but got a little manipulation in there. But I could not give John Cena the 17th championship. I just had to make him work for it. Work very very hard for it.
Yeah, man. I loved that. I definitely here's one thing that's really good, right? I had no idea where any of it was going any of the time, which I know that sounds bad, but it's actually not, because at the end of the day, it's all about like keeping people on their feet and, suspense and surprise and shock. I will say, before I get into all the good things, I do want to say the one thing about this that I may have done differently.
Go for it.
I may have so okay. Actually, you know what? Not I'm gonna say the bad thing after a couple good things because I think it's better for context. So I loved the tables match. I think winning the championship in a tables match is actually, especially with the John Cena that you are presenting, because your John Cena is in a much different place than my John Cena. My John Cena went through what your John Cena is going through at the beginning, and you have him super hardcore struggling now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
mine was at the beginning, and then he kind of gets over it and is now on a fast track to being the GOAT. And yours is obviously he hot at the beginning and then started struggling.
Got to
I would
earn
have
got to earn the 17th championship. Yep.
I would have really liked to see. So here's how I would have done it. Again, tables match, awesome. Win the championship in a tables match. But here's the thing. To me, it's not as impactful when he wins it in a tables match if he's already won a gauntlet match. Imagine if you'd had him win it earlier in a tables match. That he's been struggling to pin anybody. He can't
Mm-hmm.
beat nobody. Cross puts him in this match. It's a tables match. Logan Paul says, I don't care. He can't beat anybody. This guy sucks. And I'm the freaking man. And Cena's like, wait, tables match? I don't have to pin anybody. I can do that. Okay. Yeah. Great. Do it just like the way you did it. Just take it earlier. He wins the belt in a tables match. Doesn't have to pin anybody.
Yep.
Wins it in a tables match. That's his big win. Oh my God. He not fluked his way, but he didn't have to beat anybody, clean, as a pin, but he's smart and he got it. And then have Cross manipulate now. Oh, Cena, you think you're all that? You're gonna
It's
have
time.
to you're gonna have to you're gonna have to retain the title in a gauntlet match,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then have
Yeah.
Cena win the gauntlet match. Then you have Super Cena come back when everybody's like, "Where has this John Cena been? Oh my God!" It's
Yeah.
like that title gave him powers. Like it's like he takes that responsibility of being world champion so seriously that he forgets that he's been horrible for like that would be the only thing I would have changed. I would have changed the
Yep.
order of those two things happening. Other than that, Dan, I absolutely loved it. I loved
Thank you.
this may have just been in my own head. You said like Logan Paul's no longer lurking. Dude, lurking Logan Paul actually kind of has a ring to it. I freaking love it. I loved that very much. Obviously,
I'm gonna trademark that right now.
go for it, dude. All
Nobody steal
yours.
that from
Take
me.
it. Go, dude, take it, dude. It's all yours. Um, yeah, I loved that. That was great. I think the Logan Paul carrying cross little partnership, but not mentor mentee, but certainly apprentice, right? Like almost like Gandalf, but evil Gandalf, and then apprentice,
Sauron.
right? Yeah. So kind of really like that, like puppeteer and puppet sort of relationship that they've
Yep.
got. I love that. Big Bronson Reed, big shout out to him for winning a world title. I did not expect that. That's awesome. Good for him. Unfortunately, he is a transitional champion in your booking, but that's okay. He's big
For
enough and
now.
awesome enough. He'd be fine. So I think that that's really cool. I liked the thought process you had behind the triple threat, cashing in the middle of the match. I do want to ask though, who did he pin in your booking? I don't
Oh,
think
did
you
I
really
not?
made that clear. I know
Um,
you had it like
well, he he technically pinned Cena, but Cena was on top of Bronson, so it was kind of a double pin.
so
I
he pinned
think
him.
I
Okay,
must, yeah, technically a
cool.
double pin, because it's like want to build his ego up as much as
Okay.
possible.
Yeah, that makes sense as to why Bronson didn't get an immediate rematch then, because in my head when you had said it, he pinned Cena. And I was like, dude, if I'm Bronson Reed, I'm pissed. I didn't get pinned to lose my belt, and I don't even get a freaking rematch. Like I'd be livid. And obviously, big Bronson Reed, you do not want livid. So, but that no, that makes sense. If he pinned Bronson along with it, then Bronson doesn't have much of a leg to stand on, I guess. Although it's a Money in the Bank cash in. But regardless, I did want to make that clear. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. I mean, obviously, my guess is Cross is the final boss, the final Cross boss Cross. That,
I'm not as patient
um,
with it much. Yeah, no, I mean it's
yeah,
yeah, it's an
so
angle that we've discussed off camera, which I don't mind.
yeah,
That's definitely the direction I'm heading for end of the
perfect.
year, and I think it's and I don't know. I'm one of those people that I'm like, I want to see Karrion wrestle soon. Like I like his
Yeah,
character. I like how he comes across. Especially now that Final Testament's over. Honestly, I don't even remember the last time he had. I meant to look it up before we started recording. But I don't even remember the last time Karrion had a WWE match. Was it
it's been a
WrestleMania
while.
40
Yeah, I have no idea.
when they
Yeah,
did
it's
the
definitely been a while,
street
and I
fight?
and I think I think the slow burn that you have is really intriguing. Obviously, I think Logan Paul winning Money in the Bank. I think that's honestly a very realistic possibility for 2025. I
I
think he
think it is too.
certainly. I honestly think if I had to pick somebody to win it right now, it'd probably be him, just
Yeah.
as like a favorite, maybe like a Fatu or somebody like that, right? But you know, right now I'm looking at Logan Paul.
I mean,
Um,
I like your Finn pick for I mean, obviously we're way far
yeah,
ahead. We don't even know what WrestleMania is, but I like your Finn pick for Money in the Bank too. It's
thank you.
I feel we got to get we got to get a good heel that can really just torture people. Like I have this,
Sure,
be ready.
sure, yeah, and I think the good thing about us us as fans, when you have a start date and an end date, there's no doubt as to when something needs to end. It is the end date that you have already set,
Right.
which is December 31st. That's he's never going to be a wrestler again. And if it ends up falling short, like if it's the 29th or 27th or whatever, then it's that, right? Whatever day that is. So you have to tell a story from January 6th to December, whatever. Like that's your end point, no matter what. And so it actually really allows you to almost be free because you know exactly how long your story has to be. You know how many parts, meaning pay-per-view matches, there has to be. And then you just bend your whole story around that. And now it makes sense as to why you said at the beginning the AOP getting released screwed up your story because obviously they're with Carrying Cross right now. So I'm interested to see where things go because obviously, I mean, people watching this, if you're watching this and you have no idea how wrestling works or how the WWE pay per view schedule works, I'm really confused and glad you're here, but really confused of why you're here. But just in case there's any of you out there, in part four, there's a little thing called Survivor Series War Games. And so I'm intrigued to see where your direction goes with war games. I know where mine goes. Obviously, I wrote it. But it. I loved your story today, man. I was a bit concerned because when you did come to me and you kind of were like, "Yeah, dude, I got to start completely over." I was like, "Oh boy," because like, how are you gonna make? Well, it wasn't even just like I didn't think the story for now to the end would be bad. I more was like, okay, you wrote 6 months of story with one end in mind, and now you have to make a different end in mind to make sense with the story you've already written, which is difficult. I mean, really difficult to do. And you pulled it off, and that's awesome, dude. So congrats to you. And again, Lurk and Logan Paul, man, that's got to be a T-shirt. That's really freaking good. That's really
Yes.
good.
I mean, he has like new gear and new theme or something right now, right? Might as well get a new T-shirt,
Yeah,
new
well,
finisher.
sure, Lurk and Logan. Why not? Um,
I know I know they're calling his new finisher that he did over Ray other night. I don't remember what
yeah,
they're calling it,
the
but it's I know it's new.
pulverizer or whatever.
Yeah,
Yuck.
pulverizer.
That's gross. But it's fine. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
dude,
him.
I liked it. I think having the only thing that would bother me slightly as a fan is three straight transitional champs. That is a bit rough because it's Reed transitional. Well, not Gunther because poor Gunther. Just we'll be. I thought I treated Gunther poorly in my booking. You just said I'm just gonna
I'm
beat
like,
the
nope,
crap
writing
out of
him
him and
off.
take him out of. I'm just gonna put him in the hospital. Yeah, it's even. I don't
See
know
ya.
which one's worse.
Bye. Well,
One
and
of them
part of
is a
that for
lot.
me too was like I just couldn't come up with a story that made sense for me to someone, especially especially since we both ended WrestleMania the same of Gunther beating Cena. And it's like, well, if you can't beat him at the biggest stage of them all, how easy, it's like, and I already went the story with Cody, which I
Yeah,
like your nice touch of putting Cody in your story, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But I already mentioned, Cena crossing paths with Cody on my end, so I'm like, well, I don't really want to go back to that, or it's gonna be really convoluted if I try to go back to that one, and if I'm gonna take it off of Rhodes and how to, it's like I don't know if I don't, like
yeah.
I don't see either belt coming off either one. Well, a couple months ago, I don't know if I would have seen the belt coming off either one. Now that might be different considering the nature of the Royal Rumble. But as terms of the booking of where I've went, we both went in a sense. I'm like, I, I just don't feel right just being like so and so beats Gunther, because like you said, 80% of Gunther's days in WWE have been as a champion. So I'm like, well, let's just write him off for a few months. He could use a break.
That's fair. And yeah, and that's why I talked about it, man. It's really hard when like obviously it's great when you have somebody that's been a champion for so long and that has really bent their entire character around that. That's not something that happens very often. It's very
Right.
unique, but it's also a crux. It's a lot like, and I use this knowing how influential he is in your story. Karrion Cross is the perfect example of that, right? He wasn't necessarily, excuse me, always a champion, but his presentation, his entrance, his look, the fact that he had Scarlet, his move set in NXT when he first got to the company, like there was no mistaking what he wanted and what Triple H wanted. Triple H made that entrance, made that gimmick, made that look because Karrion Cross was going to get the big push and he was not going to lose ever. If he didn't blow out his shoulder, the plans apparently were for him to go on like a year plus long undefeated run as champion. Like he was
Wow.
going to be indomitable. Like he was going to be a Gunther figure at the top
Mhm.
of the NXT mountain that was just turning away everyone trying to save NXT from doomsday. That was going to be his whole gimmick. Now, when you take that gimmick and you lose Scarlet and you lose the entrance and you lose the lights and then he loses a match. That's why he got released so fast
Right.
because that gimmick doesn't make sense if you don't have him win and you don't present him that way. Gunther, without more depth to his character right now, does not make sense as someone who's not a champion. And
Right.
it's fine right now because he is one. But eventually, like if he loses to Jay, at Mania, what are you gonna do? Are you going to immediately have him take the title back off Jay? If so, then what was the point of having him win the Rumble when it could have been Punk or Cena? And you're
Yep.
just going to have him win a belt just for shiggles and then put him right back where he was? That's not cool. Or Gunther loses the rematch, loses to Jay twice. Now what do you do? Now where does he go? Does he move to SmackDown and try and fight Cody? Does he like what do you do? I
Right.
don't know. So it's just two different ways to kind of make that work. Yours was obviously like, I don't know, but you know what? And again, you might not be going here with this. If you are, I'm sorry. I don't mean to spoil it. I genuinely have no idea. But in your booking, you could sit there and be like, shoot, I'd like to see Gunther versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther will be pissed when he comes back. He's like, I didn't even lose my championship. Punk, you get over here so I can chop you into death. I will fire you to death's door. And Punk will have to be like, you know what? He probably can fire me into death's door because he's pretty pissed right now. I'm not the one that attacked him, but he might. And then you can go wherever you want. You can have Gunther get the title back. You can have Punk win, whatever it is, right? And that may not be where you're going. I don't know. But that's something that makes sense. You have a match. You have a thing. He never lost his belt. He comes back. Did you forget about me? Because I'm awesome. And
Yep.
literally no one can beat me. That's how it works, right? So that's
And
a
that's why
great
I love
thing.
that.
Mine is just a little more emotionally traumatizing for my poor
I
friend
mean, no,
Gunther.
I like what you do with yours too. You know, it's like you said, we both saw the need of having to do something different with Gunther's character, make it make sense with everything going on right now. And I feel like that's in a way what's kind of hard with this booking. But we just this thing that we decided to tackle with Cena. I was like booking this whole year. It's like, man, he's appeared 3 times. By the time March 1st hits, it'll be 3 appearances. How are you gonna cram it? It's like, what are they gonna do? Personally, I'm like, what is actually going to happen? And I can't wait for it. At all. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's like, well, we'll just keep fun booking this, and hopefully something like this happens, or a couple of our highlights happen somehow.
For sure.
Guys, let us know what you think down below in the comments. Which story you like better here? If you have any questions, comments, thoughts on what you might do with either of our stories, we'd love to see those comments. Let us know exactly what you're thinking here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Give this video a like. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Tyler, appreciate what you've done with this channel, with me, with your channel. Some of the things you do, so yours. Taking me. It's been great doing this journey with you. It's almost hard to not do a wrestling segment with you at this point. So I appreciate that we can keep doing these things. I really do. So thank you, Tyler, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, the whole kit and caboodle, please. And we will see you guys next time for the true final booking chapter of John Cena, Part 4. We'll hit post Crown Jewel through the end of the year. Join us then. We'll see you guys next time.